Lahagim laharbis b'slichas be'erev Rosh Hashanah. This tradition to do more slichas on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Even though we don't actually fall on our faces, we don't put our heads, our faces down. We have Rosh Hashanah by davening. But early in the morning, we do go and we do Nefilas Hapayim. Because of Achroinim Shafil Nimshach Al Yoim, even if, let's say, it's taking a longer time that you're actually doing towards the end of Slichas, it's already day. Because usually I don't know why it's very common, but he says that a lot of times we do finish by Alois HaShacha, by dawn. If you're saying because the majority of the time, practically nobody ends slichas nowadays so early, we'll probably of course, those that start late for sure don't end early, and it's not going to be dark. Still, after everything is said and done, the tradition was wherever, even if you began the slichas while it's already day, and we go ahead and we, at the end of slichas, everybody does this. We have Nefilas Hapayim, even though we don't do Nefilas Hapayim after Shemini Esrei. After Chazaras Hashatz, we say a Chatzi Kaddish and we go straight to Ashrei Yivol Tziyun. So let's see how he explains it here inside. We're talking now about slichas. We went through many different halachas slichas. We didn't go for everything. A lot of different halachas that we didn't go through, but I want to get to the main points of Rosh Hashanah. Is over here, we're talking about slichas of Erev Rosh Hashanah. Shulchan Aruch Sim Tuf Kof Pei Aleph Sim Gimel says, Ein Noifim Al Pnei Be'erev Rosh Hashanah B'Tefillah. Davening, you don't do Nefilas Hapayim. Aval B'Shem Noifim Al Pnei B'Shmoris B'Slichas. Even though early on by Slichas you do, Ad Kan. That's how the Shulchan Aruch brings it down, the Mechaber. Magen Avraham B'Shmoris. What's the reason why Bashmoiris, meaning before dawn, you don't fall, you fall? He says over here they even ended the slichas. Over here, slichas takes a good hour and a half to 2 hours, so they would really have to start at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. We start here at 5 and we finish at what is it, about 6:45, 6:30, 6:45? I don't know. It takes time. So he says, Ratzon keep the right palm regil sign code mach lois hashacha tikne liba off in ear palm achad shemam shechal al yoyim neiflim. You still, maybe you'll have happenstance that you're going to end late. So therefore, we're Noifim Al Pnei, we do Nefilas Hapayim, even when we have a situation that it happens. And for davening, it's not called yoim, let's say if you daven early, until you have sunrise. Maisa here doesn't bring this thing that with that the second reasoning that we call yoim only when we do davening and not when that and not because we ended before daybreak.
According to the second reason, then if it's in the after late,
he says Gamliel too loimiku yoim adanei tzachama, meaning even if it's before daybreak. It's after daybreak, still we're talking sunrise. So, Maisa, what comes out over here? Only brings the first one that we end usually by daybreak, by Alois Hashach. which never happens.
Used to be. Sounds like a
Yeah.
low, even though it takes so long.
Yeah. Maisa, there are those that have the minik that they do slichis on Erev Rosh Hashanah by midnight. So if you do slichis by Erev Rosh Hashanah by midnight, then you're going to finish slichis before Alois HaShachar. But that's not the minig in most shuls. Most shuls, they do it early in the morning. And Shmuel says, "L'fizeh b'znamenu shurgil tamel l'sayim slichis achar Alois HaShachar." At the end of the day, we end much later, before, after Alois HaShachar, before dawn. Royal shlo yibal panav. Really? You shouldn't have to do Nefilas HaPayim at the end of Slichis. It's Archlim Laman Hagli Bal Paneim. Avsham Skim Slichis there Rosh Hashanah Achaleis HaShacha Leif Al Paneim B'Gemara Slichis. The Nefilas HaPayim happens only at the end, even if you start early, like we do, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's before Alois HaShacha. But at the end of the day, by the time you finish, it's after Alois HaShacha. Ulai kiven shetiknu Nefilas HaPayim and say that Slichis there Rosh Hashanah Mishum Dinket Takon Slichis Hu Bashmaris Koidim Arayoim. And since that's the way it was enacted, that we do it early, Melav can we say that Tefillah Shchen Gam Atul Shayach Hatam, even though you don't have this reasoning, but at the end of the day, since the main Slichis is done before Alois HaShachar, so we consider it like before Alois HaShachar. Al Kaponim Kach Niskin, she would say the Slichis there Rosh Hashanah. The Al Kaponim Ein L'Shanas HaMinig, you shouldn't change. Meaning, it's difficult to understand why it's done that way, but he says the whole Vel does it. I mentioned this many a time about, I say it every year before Rosh Hashanah, that you had Rav Henkin. Rav Henkin used to call up Rav Shnei Kotler before Rosh Hashanah and say, because in the end of davening on Rosh Hashanah very late, so before Tkiyah Shofar, everybody went to make Kiddush in the dining room, and it was in public. And the Shulchan Aruch, it's brought down that before Tkiyah, you're not supposed to make Kiddush, and even if you have to, you're not well, you do it b'tzila. So Rav Henkin told Rav Shnei every year that before he gave him a ksiva, he says, but you're not doing Al Pi Halacha. Al Pi Halacha, you can't have it in a dining room where everybody's making Kiddush and eating to their heart's desire in front of everybody. Even if you say that they're like a choila, they're like an ill person because you're going to finish so late, but you do it with sinner, you do it quietly. Behind closed doors, call it. So one year, Rav Moshe Feinstein called up Rav Shnei before Rav Henkin would call him, and he realized that Rav Henkin would be calling him. So he asked Rav Moshe, what's Takib Pshat? That you do it b'pumbia, in public. He said, that's what they did in the Litta, Lithuania. I mean, when you say Delita, you mean Vilna and all these places. They had this thing, even though we don't understand it 100%. So, of course, Rav Henkin called up shortly after, and of course he gave him this same sing song, saying you're not supposed to do it. So Shnei said, I just spoke to Rav Moshe, and Rav Moshe said that that's what they did in the Litta. So Rav Henkin wasn't what you call a big chassid, and he said to him that oi bazoi seid ihr nicht besser von der Chassidim. The Chassidim gehen gegen Halacha, Chassidim go against Halacha because azoi fiert sich the Rebbe. That's what the Rebbe does. You go against Halacha because azoi been gefiert in the Litta. So he says, what's the difference between you and the Chassidim? Yeah. Tkiyah Shofar be'erev Rosh Hashanah. What about blowing shofar on erev Rosh Hashanah? Be'erev Rosh Hashanah ein toikim b'shofar b'soy matfil. You don't blow shofar. Afilu m'chal Rosh Hashanah b'Shabbos. Even if Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos. So you're not going to blow, you're going to have a period of a day's time that you're not going to blow. Ein l'tkoyev Rosh Hashanah. You don't blow. However, Amnum l'tkoyev b'beisay b'tzina b'chtei l'islam et shapadon. But let's say you're doing it for practice purposes. You're going to go and blow shofar. You have to practice on it. Then it's not a problem. So let's see how he brings it down over here. Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Kov Pei Aleph Sef Gimel Vein Toiv Rosh Hashanah because of HaMagen Avraham. This is from the Magen Avraham that Lahavsik Bein Tekiyas the Rishus L'Tekiyas Techiv. The reason why you have this tradition is because we want to make a pause between those that what you would call Rishus, optional, to those that were obligatory. And we know that on Rosh Hashanah you have obligatory, and therefore there was that pause. Av Minhagim Kosev, but in the Seif HaMinhagim from the Maril, it says, Kosev Atam La'aviv HaSotim. It's lured to mix up the Sotim because it's trying to say, hey, what's going on? We're not blowing. So we fool him by making this type of pause that he should think he can get all mavulbul, get all mixed up. Rosh Hashanah b'Shabbos, ain't talking b'Shabbos, and came Shapi Yuchel at Koiber Rosh Hashanah. You should be able to blow on every Rosh Hashanah. Ki ike hefsik ben tekiyas rishus tekiyas techayva. If he's saying it's because of a pause, you can have the pause of the day of Rosh Hashanah. You can l'shach tam zeh. Gam tam dira sotin like a dog shein toike b'Shabbos yachshik far over yom adin. He's also going to think, why are they not blowing? Because it's already passed. Alright, so it seems to be that technically you could really blow on Rosh Hashanah. The only reason why we don't blow on Rosh Hashanah is because there's two things that are. It says that there are two things that are also to do on that you don't do on Shabbos. What are they? They are blowing shofar, tekiyas shofar, and taking out the pas from the Tana. Right? Huh? Rediyas hapas, right. Rediyas hapas, taking out the pas. So, but it's also a chokhmah and you don't do it. So maybe you'll say b'makom mitzvah you could do it. The only reason why we don't blow on Rosh Hashanah is the same reason why we don't read Megillah if it doesn't come out anymore. Read the Megillah, or we also, you don't shake the lulav and esrog. What?
Yerushalayim did blow.
Yerushalayim, they don't read the Megillah.
We don't read the Megillah. No, we don't read the Megillah.
Yerushalayim we do blow.
On Shabbos?
No.
We're talking about Shabbos.
Oh, Rosh Hashanah.
No, we're not talking about everybody blows on Rosh Hashanah except if it comes out on Shabbos.
No, I'm saying Rosh Hashanah Shabbos we blow. Rosh Hashanah Shabbos we blow. Yes. Kosa we blow.
Okay.
Many years.
Huh?
Many years. A Gemara. It's my first Gemara.
You know, I don't recall. Rabbi Zuber.
Rabbi Zuber. Rebbe's asking for Rebbe's asking for
Is he there?
No.
He's not there?
He is, Shopsy had him.
Oh.
We're not finding the
Did you ever hear Yerushalayim they blow shofar on Shabbos?
Yeah.
They do? Huh? What? You're Yerushalayim. Oh, here's Yerushalmi. You blow shofar Rosh Hashanah? No, he doesn't blow shofar.
I'm trying to remember. There was one of the top one that he did blow.
There's one nice one, yes.
Okay, but I'm saying, what's the minig ha'olam in Eretz Yisrael? I don't recall such
No, the
a
minute guy was not blowing.
even in Yerushalayim.
Correct, but
the Kosa for sure they blow. Kosa they blow. Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah they blow.
Okay, fine. Okay, but the reason why is Shemi Yaviren Dal Hamas, right? So Minatoyri you're supposed to. It's only Xerid that we say Shemi Yaviren. So therefore, we don't blow shofar. So the question over here is why these time don't make sense. If Shabbos comes out, the first day of Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, so you have that pause anyway of the first day, so why don't you blow on Erev Rosh Hashanah? But he said, if Shmuel said, hey, the key of the maskim to Yeshayva b'yom Shabbos, the reason is because we say in Tefillah about blowing shofar. Shabbos shayich tamid lahafs ben kiyas v'gam tamid the irv of Satan goyim Rosh Hashanah kan bara. That it's good enough. V'chein kasev Mishnah Berurah, in Simchat Chav Dalet over there, M'shar Tziyin u'be'elv hamogim. That even though you don't actually blow on Rosh Hashanah, since you mentioned in the Tefillah the blowing of Rosh Hashanah, that's enough not to be ma'arv the Satan, and therefore we wait the day before to blow. Another halacha is that on Erev Rosh Hashanah, if let's say someone's learning to blow shofar and he wants to practice, is he allowed to? He's allowed to do it. And this is also in Siman Tov Kov Pei Aleph Siv Gimel Vein Toikim Be'erev Rosh Hashanah Atan. Because of Hamogin Avram, lahafsik ben tekiyas to rishus tekiyas techiyav, l'chem mafsikim b'yoyim chov ches. Mashma shigam b'layla shlefonim ein l'tkoya. Meaning, we make a hefsik, and therefore at night you don't blow. Komokim beisim mutal koya l'slamid the dai kishemafsik beis hakneses. It's good enough that you make that hafsok in shul. You don't have to make a hafsok in the house. Avlumin hogim kosev atam la'arvasodin ke'en l'koy klal. Ochibel Yerabbe hetik divri ha-maril kosev tira da'afu tam zeh efshel demut l'koy l'slam be'erev Rosh Hashanah. Even if that reasoning that's because it's for the purpose to be ma'arv the Satan. Kiva shein toikim beis hakneses. Since they're not blowing a shul, so that it's passed already. The Lekhem HaGaram does that it says prohibited. Shumat Sosi b'Seif Amarkel Kosev Al Klaf V'Zel Shayni Mishroitzel L'Tkoi Kedei Lo. If someone wants to practice, blow in order to practice, Tekeya, here you can see just like the Lush. Tekeya b'mikvah, you should do it in the mikvah. I know what's going to help you doing it in the mikvah. Oy b'chay d'sog shel lahargel asab, not to awaken this Satan over here. So you got to do it in a closed door. B'chay d'sog means a closed room. I guess behind closed doors, in order that the Satan shouldn't find out about it. I know, Lamai said, I always was bothered by this halacha, that you were going to be ma'arv the Satan. What bothers me about it? I mean, you fool me once, but fool me twice, 3 times, 4 times, 100 times. How many times can you fool the Satan? Unless you say he is a malach. And a malach technically is habitual. He does his thing, and he knows what to do, and he makes his kushbayis, and malach is not a being of time that you remember what this malach did 50 years ago. He knows what his job is. That's why when you give a malach, I remember my mother always saying that she gave me a couple of jobs. So after I finished one, that was it. She's telling me, what are you, a malach? Because the malach does one job at a time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only gives him one job at a time. It doesn't go more than one job at a time. So the Sultan is a malach, and he only knows what's today. Like a child. The child, you see that they live by the day until you get to a certain age. They're living by the day. They don't know yesterday, they don't know tomorrow, and they only know at that moment in time. So the Sultan has that type of a mentality that he's talking about now. What happened 2 weeks ago, a year ago, a month ago, he doesn't know. So therefore, you can be ma'arv with him. You can trick him every single time. Okay. Let's talk about another halacha. Tefillah Erev Rosh Hashana. There are many people, even if they don't go every day or every Erev Shabbos, they'll go to the mikvah on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Now, Hagim Litzvah Erev Rosh Hashanah Mishum Keri. There's a halacha to be Tov Erev Rosh Hashanah because of the concept of Sibur. L'chatchila Yagim Litzvah Al Shor Koydim Chatzos Hayom. You shouldn't do it too early. Only right before noon. Or if it's difficult, you do it by Amoid Hashach. Shulchan Aruch, Siman, this is halach in Shulchan Aruch already. Siman Tov Kof Peyal Sifdal Yishnahar Mitzvah Rosh Hashanah Mishum Keri. Ad Kan Kosim Chay Adam. Every person, if at all possible, should immerse himself in a mikvah or in a river. It shouldn't be too early, an hour before Chatzos. Uvish the brewer, the Sefer Moed Chochai, a Hochem of Chatzos Lel Erev Rosh Hashanah V'Lev Yom Kippur Litfol, we also V'Leiklum B'Meshet Toivul. That those people go to these bathhouses of the night of Erev Rosh Hashanah and the night of Erev Yom Kippur to immerse themselves, it's worthless. You do it by the end of the 5th hour, meaning an hour before noon. Maybe he won't get a good clear tefillah. You should do it by after the dawn, not any earlier. So that's the minhag. We go and we immerse ourselves in the mikvah on Erev Rosh Hashanah. And even those that are mefunakim, I remember years ago there was a fellow, I'm not going to name nameless, he's already on the memes. We used to walk out. I don't know how he does it. I'm not in charge anymore. It's new administration. But we used to do it the night before Rosh Hashanah. We used to, maybe it takes now a couple days, but to heat up the water it takes time. But we used to do empty the mikveh, clean it out to make sure it's up to snuff. And this guy used to call my father up and tell him he wants to be the first one to use the mikveh in the morning. He used to come very early, and I remember I used to greet him, and he used to say to me, Naftali, am I the first one in here? I said, yeah, Mr. Whoever, you're number one to go into this mikveh. Because he had to be the first one. That's how much of a mufalik he was. It's in nature. If you're a Chassid Shi'i, you're not going to have this problem. What?
They're serving very big people.
What?
They're serving very big people along with that.
Yeah? Okay, you know better than me. I lived in Boston all my life, not like you. Anyway, but at the end of the day, a Chassid Shi'i has that. He's up the creek without a paddle. Okay, next week we'll start off with Hatars Nadarim. We're going to go into what Nadarim is all about, and then we'll do some, during the week we'll start with the Tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah, and hopefully we'll be able to do by the end of next week learning some of the halachos of the Tekiyos.